As the sun dipped low over the small southern town, casting a warm golden hue, Reba Mcentire parked her car outside the weathered inn. The enchanting fragrance of blooming jasmine rose in the air, intertwined with echoes of laughter from happier days long gone. But today the air felt heavy, thick with the weight of betrayal that had haunted her spirit for weeks. A trusted friend had shattered her sense of security, leaving her yearning for solace and inspiration, which felt painfully out of reach. Reba stepped out of her car, the familiar surroundings stirring memories that danced just beyond her grasp. She approached the entrance with hesitant steps, noting how the worn wooden boards creaked underfoot, a reminder of all the life that had flourished within these walls. Mabel, the innkeeper, greeted her with a warm smile, her eyes reflecting deep kindness and understanding. "Welcome back, Reba," Mabel said. "You look weary. This place can offer you a bit of peace." Reba managed a faint smile, though it barely masked her turmoil. "It's been a long journey," she replied. "I just need to breathe to find myself again." As Mabel guided her up the staircase, each step seemed to echo the weight of her heart. Room 207 awaited her, and as the door creaked open, Reba felt an inexplicable pull toward the space that promised refuge, yet felt saturated with unresolved tension. The room exuded a charm that both lulled her and made her wary. Soft light spilled across cushioned furnishings, creating shadows that danced playfully, but also held an eerie stillness, reminders of stories untold. Stepping inside, Reba took a deep breath, inhaling the faint scent of lavender that lingered in the air. It was comforting, yet the emotional void seeped in, a stark contrast that sent shivers down her spine. Why did it feel like home and yet so foreign? "Do you want to talk about it?" Mabel's gentle voice broke through the stiffness of the air, her empathy palpable. Reba shook her head. "I don't know if I can," she whispered, her heart quaking beneath the weight of unresolved emotions. She recalled the laughter she had once shared with her friend, memories now tinged with disbelief and sorrow. Mabel nodded, a patient understanding in her eyes. "Healing often begins with facing our shadows. It's not an easy task." "Why is it so hard to let go?" Reba questioned softly, longing for answers. A lump formed in her throat as the memories flooded in, the joy, the trust, all punctured by the betrayal that still throbbed like an open wound. "Perhaps you need to listen closely," Mabel replied, her voice steady. "Room 207 holds many secrets, and therein lies your path back." Sinking onto the edge of the bed, Reba looked out of the window. The encroaching darkness brought a sense of impending possibility. She closed her eyes, letting the silence envelop her, a moment to breathe into the void. Room 207 had a pulse, a rhythm waiting to guide her deeper into understanding. It whispered of past guests, of lives woven together, and now it waited for her to uncover the notes left behind. As dusk settled outside, Reba felt the flicker of something stirring within her, a tentative reminder of hope blending with her pain. Room 207 could hold answers if she mustered the courage to listen. With the promise of night unfurling before her, she prepared herself to embrace whatever awaited, yearning for the inspiration to mend her spirit and reclaim her music. As twilight fell over the town, Reba sat on the edge of the inn's bed, the shadows stretching elongated against the walls. The stillness of the room was palpable, filling her with a mixture of comfort and anxiety. She inhaled deeply, cradling the quilt in her hands, trying to seek solace in its familiar texture. The frantic thoughts racing through her mind were interrupted by the soft sound of a guitar drifting through the open window, pulling her closer to the source. She rose and approached the window, peering out into the dusky embrace of the evening. On the porch sat Jake, a local musician whose easygoing nature had always intrigued her. He strummed gently, the notes floating like whispers into the night, a balm to her troubled spirit. Past conversations danced in her memory, times spent sharing laughter and dreams over cups of coffee, but tonight felt different. The music beckoned her, promising a reprieve from the tumult within. "Mind if I join you?" she called out, her voice carrying through the gentle breeze. Jake looked up, his face lighting up with recognition. "Please, come on out." Reba stepped outside, the air cool against her skin, wrapping her in a comforting embrace. She settled onto the steps next to him, watching as his fingers danced over the strings with graceful familiarity. For a moment she allowed herself to be enveloped by the melody, letting it wash over her like a soothing balm. "What are you playing?" she asked, intrigued by the passion imbued in each note. Just something I'm working on, he replied, a hint of a smile on his lips, trying to capture a feeling. And you? How's the creative flow treating you? Not so great, she admitted, letting out a soft laugh, trying to mask the weight in her heart. I've been searching for inspiration, but it feels like I'm stuck. Jake nodded, his brow furrowing thoughtfully. Sometimes our best work comes from our struggles. Finding the courage to share our pain can be a step toward healing. Have you thought about what's holding you back? Reba bit her lip, the truth swirling in her mind like a storm. The betrayal of her friend lingered heavily, halting the flow of her creativity. She had built walls to protect herself, but now they felt like prisons. It's hard to confront everything, to acknowledge the hurt. His gaze bore into her, a gentle yet persistent probing. Sometimes the act of sharing can break those walls. What if you wrote about it? Put those feelings into words and let them grow into something beautiful. The idea settled against her, stirring a small flame of possibility within. I don't know, she murmured, glancing up at the stars, barely visible through the thickening clouds. What if it's too raw? What if it just hurts more? Maybe it will, he said softly, his fingers stilling over the strings. But navigating through the hurt could also lead you to something profound. What if the pain transforms into something powerful? For the first time since arriving, Reba felt a tingle of hope. What if I could share my story? What if it resonates with someone else who's hurting? Exactly, Jake said, his enthusiasm palpable. Your vulnerability might speak to others. Show them they're not alone. You hold a light within you, Reba. Let it shine. An idea flickered in her mind, merging with their conversation under the cool embrace of night. She could take those fragments of her story, the laughter, the pain, and weave them into something beautiful, a song that encompassed both her vulnerability and her strength. The thought invigorated her, filling her with renewed determination. I think I want to try, she said, a soft smile emerging. I want to reclaim my voice. I want to tell my story. That's the spirit, Jake encouraged, his warmth wrapping around her like a favorite old jacket. It starts with one note, one word. The rest will follow. They sat in silence for a moment, the night air thick with potential. Reba envisioned herself at the microphone, sharing her journey, her truth, as the audience leaned in, captivated by her story. As the stars began to blink against the inky sky, she felt the weight of her heart shift. I won't rush into it, she murmured, but it's time I listened to what my heart has to say. The music resumed, intertwining with her thoughts, each strum a reminder of hope. They created a rhythm together, two souls meeting in the embrace of the night, ushering in the inspiration that she so desperately sought. The shadows in room 207 no longer felt as daunting. With each note, she could sense a path beginning to unfold, illuminated by the shared understanding and gentle encouragement of a newfound friend. It was in the darkness that she could find the whispers of light, guiding her toward the next chapter, a journey of transformation waiting to be penned in the melodies of her heart. The next morning arrived muted, the fog draping the fields in a soft grey blanket. Reba awoke feeling different, lighter, almost buoyant. The remnants of Jake's encouragement lingered like a warm glow inside her, pushing her to try again. She swung her legs over the side of the bed, the cool wooden floor grounding her to the moment. With determination, she reached for her guitar, its familiar weight reassuring as she settled on the porch. The quietness of the morning embraced her, allowing her to drown out everything except the sound of her strumming. As the sun slowly crept over the horizon, illuminating the dew-kissed grass, Reba felt a surge of inspiration flooding her. The chords flowed from her fingers, awakening the parts of her that had lain dormant for so long. She began to play around with melodies, experimenting with different rhythms. Last night's conversation with Jake echoed in her mind, nudging her toward creativity, and this time she wouldn't hold back. As she strummed, journal pages lay scattered beside her, remnants of thoughts and lyrics she had begun to sculpt. Words began to form, conveying longing and pain, but intertwined with hope. Maybe the struggle can help someone else, she whispered to herself, each note energizing her resolve. It felt like a release, a cleansing of sorts, as if each strum was washing away layers of self-doubt. Just then, Mabel appeared from the inn, her presence warm and inviting. "Good morning, Reba. You sound wonderful out here. What are you working on?" The question hung in the air, and Reba felt the familiar tremor of uncertainty creep in. It's something new, she admitted, glancing down at her guitar. I'm trying to find my voice again. Beautiful, Mabel said, settling beside her on the porch steps. Share it with me. Reba's heart raced, the thought of revealing her growing song both exciting and terrifying. I'm still in the rough stages. I guess I'm afraid it won't be good enough, she confessed, blushing under the morning light. There is no good enough when it comes to art, Mabel replied, her voice unwavering. Your truths matter. Your struggles matter. Sharing them is where the beauty lies. With every word Mabel spoke, the flicker of courage inside Reba ignited. You really think so? I know so, Mabel replied firmly. Let it out, Reba. Let the world hear your heart. With a deep breath, Reba tuned her strings one final time, the air around them heavy with anticipation. All right, she said, her voice steadier now. Here goes. As she began to sing, her voice quivered at first but grew stronger with every lyric. She poured everything into the song, weaving together tales of loss, longing, and the journey to reclaim herself. Mabel listened, her eyes reflecting understanding and empathy, and Reba felt the weight lifting from her shoulders with every note. When she finished, silence hung in the air. Reba opened her eyes, surprised at the cathartic release that had unfolded. Wow, she breathed, feeling raw yet exhilarated. That was incredible, Mabel said softly, her eyes glistening. You sang your truth, and it was beautiful. You have something special, Reba. Tears pricked at the corners of Reba's eyes, a mixture of relief and hope flooding her heart. For the first time in a long while, she felt a sense of purpose. Thank you, Mabel, she whispered, her heart swelling with gratitude. Just then, Jake rejoined them on the porch, guitar in hand. I heard some beautiful sounds coming from here. What's been going on? Reba felt a rush of excitement mixed with anxiety. I just shared my song with Mabel. Jake's expression lit up. And? How did it feel? It felt freeing, she replied, smiling shyly. Mabel helped me see that sharing my story is part of the process. Exactly, Jake said, nodding. That's the first step to reclaiming your voice, embracing your artistry. Reba beamed, feeling their support bolster her confidence. I want to keep writing, keep exploring this newfound outlet. Let's make a plan, Mabel suggested. Why not perform here for us? It doesn't have to be perfect. It's just the process of experiencing it together that matters. The idea blossomed in her mind, brightening her mood further. I like that, she said slowly. Just friends, sharing music. Jake chimed in, enthusiasm dripping from his voice. Absolutely. We can all bring something to share. It could be a small gathering, like a jam session. Let's celebrate these moments of truth. As they spoke, the morning sun lifted the fog entirely, illuminating the world with newfound clarity. Reba felt an energy swell inside her, a vibration resonating through her bones. This is just the beginning, she said, her heart swelling with opportunity. Thank you both for believing in me. With their support, Reba felt ready to face her fears. The song that had once felt daunting and out of reach now filled her with a sense of clarity and direction, guiding her deeper into the art of storytelling. Together, they began to make plans, their laughter harmonizing with the notes filling the air, creating an atmosphere rich with possibility. Reba took a deep breath, allowing the warmth of friendship and creativity to envelop her as she stepped courageously into this new chapter, ready to embrace the journey that beckoned. The days that followed were filled with an electrifying energy, each one infused with purpose, as the trio prepared for their first gathering. Reba found herself caught in a whirlwind of creativity, writing new lyrics, crafting melodies, and rehearsing for the small jam session they envisioned. Every strum of her guitar felt like a step forward, each hum of her voice a brushstroke on the canvas of her soul. Twilight began to blanket the town as the evening approached. The warm hues of sunset spilled across the sky like a watercolor painting, setting the perfect backdrop for their intimate gathering. Reba stood outside the inn, scanning the scene. Mabel had invited a few close friends, and Jake had spread the word among local musicians. A gentle breeze stirred the air, carrying with it notes of hope and excitement. People began arriving, bringing smiles, laughter, and a shared sense of community that wrapped around Reba like a cozy blanket. Hey there, superstar! Jake greeted her with a wide grin, a guitar slung casually over his shoulder. You ready for this? I think so, Reba replied, a flicker of nerves fluttering in her stomach. "It feels a little surreal. Just remember, they're here for the joy of music, not perfection," he reassured, plucking a quick tune that filled the air with lightness. "You're going to be amazing, I promise." As guests mingled and the sun dipped lower, Mabel stepped away from a cluster of friends and approached Reba, her eyes gleaming. "You're going to shine tonight. Just let the music carry you." "Thanks, Mabel," Reba said, the muscles in her shoulders easing slightly at Mabel's encouragement. "I'm just grateful to have all this support." The gathering soon filled with laughter, chatter, and the warm glow of friendship. With every passing moment, Reba felt her anxieties blend with excitement, like colors mixing seamlessly on an artist's palette. "All right, everyone, gather round. We're kicking off the music now," Jake called out, his voice filling the open space. The crowd responded, forming a loose circle under the stars that had begun to twinkle overhead. Reba stepped to the center, her heart racing. She glanced at the kind faces surrounding her, their smiles encouraging her to take that leap. With a deep breath, she adjusted her guitar strap and began to strum. The sound surged through her, grounding her in the moment. The anxious fluttering within began to dissipate as she opened her mouth to sing. At first, her voice wavered, but as the opening lines flowed, she locked eyes with Mabel, whose expression radiated pure support. Once she began, the world melted away. Each note felt like a testament to her journey. The melody captured her heart and carried it outward. She sang about loss, betrayal, and most importantly, hope, the arc of finding light in the shadows that had cast long over her life. As she poured herself into the song, the audience became silent, spellbound by her vulnerability. Reba felt like she was flying, her spirit soaring with every line she shared. When she reached the final note, she closed her eyes and let the last sound linger in the air. Silence enveloped the crowd for a heartbeat, until one person clapped, followed by another, until thunderous applause erupted. Reba opened her eyes, the light of the gathered friends washing over her like sunshine after a storm. "Bravo!" Jake cheered, rushing towards her as she set her guitar down. "That was stunning. You poured your heart out." Mabel joined in, tears shimmering in her eyes. "You were incredible, Reba. You shared so much of yourself." The validation swelled within her, warming her from the inside out. "Thank you, really," she breathed, her voice a mix of disbelief and joy. "I can't believe I actually did it." "Of course you did. Now the real fun begins," Jake said, gesturing to the gathering. "Let's keep this evening rolling. Everyone's here to share." One by one, other musicians took the floor, sharing their tunes, laughter, and stories. Reba found herself listening, captivated by the artistry around her. She began to intertwine her own experiences with the music, understanding that everyone there had their own journey, each story unique, yet somehow connected through shared humanity. As the night progressed, the air filled with a sense of kinship, weaving into the fabric of the evening. People swayed to the rhythms, laughter rang out, and music became the language that spoke without words. Reba felt her heart expand, the earlier weight of her past dulled as she found strength in community. Hours passed, and the night grew deeper, the stars emerging in full force as if applauding the gathering below. Eventually, Jake took a seat next to Reba, still buzzing with energy. "That was amazing. We should do this again, make it a monthly event." Reba smiled, feeling the thrill of possibility. "Yes, I'd love that. It feels so good to share, to connect." The feeling was reciprocal. Just then, a few people from the crowd approached, their faces bright with enthusiasm. "Your song really resonated with me," one woman said, her voice shaking a little. "I've been through something similar, and hearing you sing felt like a breath of fresh air." Another man chimed in, "You have a gift, Reba. Thank you for being brave enough to share it." The gratitude that surged within her was unlike anything she had felt before. "This is what it's all about," she replied, unable to hide the tears pooling in her eyes. "Connecting through music and sharing our stories." As the final notes of the night faded, Reba stood among friends, enveloped in the warmth of acceptance and understanding. She had taken a leap, confronting her fears and vulnerabilities, and in return, she found a community that resonated with her journey. Everything felt bright and whole, as if she had discovered pieces of herself that had long been hidden. The shadows of Room 207 now seemed like distant memories, transformed by the light of connection and artistic expression. Reba knew this was only the beginning of her journey. a journey filled with more stories, songs, and shared experiences that would continue to guide her. Standing there beneath the vast expanse of stars, her heart filled with hope, she felt ready to embrace whatever came next. In that moment, she understood the power of her voice and the magic found in sharing it. And with that understanding, she was finally home. The weeks that followed the gathering seemed to ripple with excitement, each day bringing new experiences and a renewed sense of purpose for Reba. The idea of hosting monthly music nights took root, blossoming into a community event that connected individuals through the shared love of music. Like a fresh breeze sweeping through the town, the gatherings transformed into something larger than she imagined, drawing in more musicians, family, and friends from the surrounding areas. Reba poured her heart into planning. She took turns hosting, experimenting with themes, and inviting local talent. The small inn buzzed with creativity as laughter and music filled the air. Each night became a vivid tapestry of stories woven together, where people freely shared their struggles and victories, creating a bond that transcended their differences. One balmy Friday evening, as the sun dipped low and the golden light spilled across the lawn, Reba stood outside, surveying the scene. Friends were gathering around tables adorned with flickering candles, sharing food and laughter. Mabel and Jake were bustling about, making sure everyone felt welcome, and the melodies of guitars punctuated the warm air. "Hey, superstar!" Jake called out, strumming a playful tune. "Are you ready for tonight's performance?" "Absolutely," Reba replied, a hint of nervousness lacing her excitement. This evening, she decided to premiere a new song, one that had come to life during her solitary moments of reflection. "I've been working on something special." Mabel approached, holding a plate piled high with homemade goodies. "We're all excited to hear it," she smiled, pushing a strand of hair behind her ear. "This community is behind you, Reba. Just remember to breathe." "Right. Breathing," Reba laughed, her heart fluttering in her chest. But for all the nerves, she also felt a deep sense of connection. The air buzzed with the vibrant energy of shared experiences and the power of storytelling through music. As the sun faded and stars began to dot the sky, she moved to the makeshift stage they had set up under an old oak tree. The soft glow of string lights hung above like stars, casting a gentle light that reflected the warmth of the gathering. As she stepped up with her guitar, the crowd grew silent, an expectant hush settling over them. The first chords rang out, and she felt the familiar surge of energy ignite within her. She began to sing, her voice steady and clear, pouring emotions into every word. The song told of finding strength in vulnerability, of embracing both joy and sorrow. Memories of her journey swirled around her, each lyric threading through the hearts of those listening. As Reba sang, she scanned the audience, locking eyes with familiar faces. Mabel, supporting and encouraging, and Jake, who beamed with pride. Even those who had shared their stories of struggle were swaying gently to the music, their own narratives intermingling with hers. By the time she concluded the song, the applause rang out louder than ever, echoing into the night. The feeling was electric, pulsating in the air as if they were all vibrating with shared emotion. "Wow," Reba breathed, her heart racing with elation. The connection in that moment was palpable. "Thank you, everyone. This means the world to me." As she stepped down from the stage, faces lit up around her, praising her performance. One woman hugged her tightly, whispering, "You have a rare gift, Reba. Your words touched my heart." "That's why I do this," Reba replied, feeling a blend of warmth and fulfillment. "To connect through our stories. It makes it all worthwhile." The night unfolded, filled with music, laughter, and joy. Local musicians took turns sharing their tunes, infusing the evening with creativity and camaraderie. Reba found herself lost in the music, embracing each performance and cherishing the stories being told. Amidst the laughter and revelry, Reba felt a profound sense of growth. She had stepped onto the path of not only reclaiming her voice, but also celebrating the voices of others. Everyone gathered was a piece of a greater puzzle, each story enriching the community tapestry they were weaving together. As the event drew to a close, the gathering transformed into more than just a celebration. It became a sanctuary. Under the sprawling sky, the bonds formed among the attendees were tangible, each shared song solidifying alliances that felt like home. In the weeks that followed, Reba's confidence grew as she continued to write and share her music. The gatherings became fixtures in the community, a way for people to come together, embrace their vulnerabilities, and celebrate their journeys. She found herself exploring deeper themes, addressing mental health, love, and loss, always focusing on the power of connection. The regulars at the gatherings began to share their own creations too, inspired by Reba's courage. Each expression birthed new stories which twined together, growing into something beautiful and transformative. One evening, as Reba sat on her porch after a particularly successful gathering, the moonlight spilled in silvery rays across the yard. With a cup of tea warming her hands, she reflected on how far she had come. The shadows of her past no longer haunted her as they once did. Instead, they became stepping stones, leading her toward growth. The lessons learned through pain were now intricate threads woven into her art. The more she shared, the more empowered she felt, releasing the hold the past had on her. Just then, Mabel arrived, her laughter filling the air. "You're glowing, Reba. Tonight was magical." Reba smiled, her heart swelling. "Thank you, it feels good to be back where I belong." As they sat together under the stars, Reba knew deep within her that this was not just about the music. It was about healing and community. She understood now that every story matters, that every life lived is a song waiting to be told. In this journey, she had discovered more than her own voice. She had unearthed the voices of many, intertwining them in a sunlit embrace that would resonate long beyond the fading music. And in that realization, standing atop her past, Reba felt a profound sense of serenity and belonging. With each passing night, she was no longer merely reclaiming her voice, she was inviting the world to sing along. As summer faded into fall, Reba felt an invigorating chill in the air, signaling not just a change in seasons, but also a milestone in her personal journey. The music gatherings had evolved into cherished traditions, a vibrant space where stories were shared and vulnerabilities embraced. Yet as she looked around at the community she'd helped cultivate, a new idea began to blossom within her, a desire to create something more substantial that encapsulated these shared experiences. One evening, after a particularly memorable gathering, Reba found herself at her kitchen table surrounded by scattered notes and lyrics. The dim light cast a warm glow, illuminating the pages filled with her thoughts. The air was thick with anticipation. She was ready to compose a collection of songs that chronicled her journey and those of others. A knock at the door jolted her from her thoughts. It was Jake, his enthusiasm contagious. "Hey, Reba, you look deep in thought. What's brewing?" "I want to create a project," she replied, eyes sparkling with excitement. "A collection of songs that capture the theme of connection and healing." "Count me in," he exclaimed. "We can gather everyone's stories and turn it into something beautiful." Reba felt a thrill rush through her. "Let's invite anyone who wants to share their voice." Soon, word spread, and the anticipation within the community surged. Reba immersed herself in songwriting, drawing inspiration from the countless stories shared during the gatherings, the moments filled with laughter, tears, and reflection. She knew this was more than just an album. It was a chance to celebrate the collective journey they had all taken. Days turned into weeks as Reba collaborated with friends, each meeting transforming into a creative haven. Mabel, with her knack for words, helped shape lyrical themes that resonated deeply. One evening they gathered at the inn, turning the familiar space into a makeshift studio. The atmosphere buzzed with excitement, illuminating Reba's spirit. It felt electric. "Let's take this energy and capture it," Jake encouraged, handing out instruments and arranging everyone into a circle. "Start us off, Reba." Taking a deep breath, Reba strummed her guitar, feeling the warmth of voices joining hers. As the music filled the room, stories flowed freely, each song a testament to resilience and connection. Folks stepped up to share their own creations, and each note echoed their lives, intertwining in a shared narrative of humanity. On one breezy afternoon, Reba gathered everyone in a circle in the inn's backyard, the sun casting a gentle glow. "This isn't just about music," she said, her voice steady. "It's about healing and unity. This is our collective story. Let's call it Voices in Harmony," suggested Mabel, capturing the essence of their shared mission. With excitement building, they mapped out arrangements and honed songs, knowing that each contribution added richness to their project. Reba's initial doubts began to fade as she watched fellow musicians find their rhythm. They were all in this together, creating something larger than themselves. Yet, as the dream of completion loomed near, Reba found a flicker of insecurity creeping back. Despite the cohesiveness of the group, she questioned her own contributions. Mabel noticed Reba's unease one day as they rehearsed. "What's on your mind?" she asked gently. "I worry my songs won't stand up to everyone else's," Reba confessed, her frustration bubbling to the surface. "Reba, it's not about comparison. Your story matters. Your voice brings something unique to the table. Just be authentic," Mabel reassured her, squeezing her hand. Renewed by Mabel's words, Reba allowed herself to dive back into songwriting with fresh determination, knowing her voice was a crucial part of their collective. As the culmination of their efforts drew closer, they planned a release night, a concert to unveil their work to the very community that had inspired them. The anticipation crackled in the air as the concert day arrived, the energy palpable. Standing before the gathered crowd, Reba felt the weight of shared stories pressing against her heart, a reminder of the journey they'd all taken. As she began to play and sing, she invited everyone not only to listen but to participate, to find their own story within the notes being shared. With every strum of her guitar, she felt a belonging, a connection that resonated deeply. As the evening unfolded, she knew they were not just presenting a collection of songs, they were celebrating the very essence of the human experience, the highs, the lows, and the enduring power of community. In that moment, beneath the stars, Reba felt not just a reclaimed voice but a chorus of many, a beautiful harmony of lives intertwined, echoing in shared understanding. Together they had forged a path into the light, and as they sang, she knew they were all free to express their truth, more alive than ever before. As the final notes of the concert lingered in the air, the crowd erupted into applause, a wave of appreciation washing over Reba and her friends. The warmth of the evening felt like a blanket, wrapping them in a cocoon of shared joy and fulfillment. Flushed with exhilaration, Reba's heart raced as she took in the faces of the community, radiant with pride and support. "Thank you all for being here tonight," she said into the microphone, her voice steady but filled with emotion. "This isn't just about our songs, it's about each one of you, every story we've shared, every moment we've embraced together. Your courage inspires me every day." Cries of encouragement erupted from the audience, and Reba felt an overwhelming swell of love for the people surrounding her. They were family, and this event had become a celebration of more than music. It was a testament to resilience. As everyone began to disperse into the night, laughter and animated conversations filled the air. Reba stepped off the stage, her friends rushing to her with hugs and cheers. Jake beamed. "We did it. Can you believe how amazing that felt? You were incredible." Mabel nodded vigorously, her excitement evident. "This is just the beginning, Reba. We've created something special together. We should do this more often." Reba glanced around at the smiles illuminating the faces of her friends and neighbors. It struck her how far they had all come, not just as musicians, but as a family bound by stories of hope and healing. "This is our space now," she said softly, her heart brimming with gratitude. "Let's keep sharing this gift." In the days that followed, the atmosphere in town remained electric. The concert had reverberated beyond those present. Stories began to thread through the community like vines, each one sprouting from the root of a shared experience. People approached Reba at local cafes and shops, recounting how the songs spoke to their own lives, inspiring them to pick up instruments or write their own stories. During a morning visit to her favorite diner, Reba watched a young woman strumming a guitar in the corner. The girl's fingers danced over the strings, a gentle tune emerging. Reba smiled, witnessing a new generation embracing the spirit of connection they had forged. Encouraged by the momentum, Reba and her friends planned more gatherings in the following months. Each event blossomed into a celebration, inviting new faces and talents into the fold. They incorporated storytelling nights, poetry readings, and open mic sessions, creating an inclusive atmosphere where anyone could share their narrative. One brisk evening, as Reba shared a story about her struggles with self-doubt, the room fell silent. "I discovered that our fears don't define us. They can guide us to find the strength we didn't know we had." Her words hung in the air, filled with warmth and vulnerability. A hush fell over the audience, and when she finished, a round of applause erupted, as if appreciation and understanding bound them closer still. It was moments like these that reinforced the power of their shared experiences. As winter set in, Reba felt a sense of peace ushering in a new chapter of her life. Under the soft glow of the holiday lights that adorned her porch, she reflected on the changes of the past year. Mabel joined her one evening, each holding a warm mug of cocoa. "Look at us," Mabel said, gesturing toward the warmly lit town. "We've built something beautiful together." Reba nodded, her heart swelling with gratitude. "It feels like we're all carrying a piece of each other, a bond that goes deeper than music." Together, they watched as snowflakes began to drift softly down from a starry sky. The world around them seemed to slow, a moment of quiet amidst the busyness of life. "Have you thought about writing a book?" Mabel asked. "You have so many stories to tell, the journey, the community. It could inspire others too." Reba considered it, seeing the merit in using her words to connect with people beyond music. "I'd love that. It's time to share even more of these stories." As the carols played softly in the distance, she felt at ease, knowing that she was stepping into a future filled with new possibilities. In the embrace of warmth, laughter, and connection, Reba discovered an evolving purpose, one that encouraged her to continue sharing her story and the stories of those she loved. She looked out at the shimmering lights dotting the landscape, understanding they were not just decorations, but reflections of every life lived and every truth shared. And that night, despite the cold warmth filled her like never before, wrapping her heart in the realization that she had become part of something so much bigger than herself, a legacy of stories, harmonizing beautifully into the fabric of their community.